So, hello everybody. Today I'm finally getting around to making a video on different chainsaw gauges of chain. What chainsaw chain gauge refers to is the actual size of these drive links. These drive links have a width. There's 3 common drive links, 050, which this is. This info can be found right here. It's most often given in inches. 050 is 50 thousandths of an inch. The next most common is 063 gauge, which this chain is. This is a 44063 gauge chain. And then the least common of the 3 commonly available ones is 058. It's in between 050 and 063. It's not perfectly in the middle, but it's close enough and it does have its purpose. There are also some smaller chains, such as 043 gauge on certain small saws, such as climbing saws that use 1/4 inch pitch, or a really small 325 chain use it. But when talking regular chains, 050 and 063 are the most common. Why run 050 versus 063 versus 058? 050 has a really distinct advantage that I don't hear talked about enough. 050 gauge does wear out over time. Your gauge gets larger and you start getting more and more slop. This honestly isn't that bad. This is about what you can expect from 050, maybe a little worse because this bar does have, as you can see, a little bit of use on it, but it's not horrible. Whereas 063, again, used bar, about the same amount of wear, much tighter. That's because these drive links are physically wider and the tolerances on 063 are tighter held than 050. However, 050 being looser and wearing out leads to the very distinct advantage. You can size up a gauge. You can go from 050 to 058. 058 chain. When that wears out and it's super sloppy again, you can go all the way up to 063 gauge. You can't do that with 063. There are no gauges larger than 063 for chainsaw chains. There are larger gauges for harvester chains, but that's beyond this video. 050, again, does have this slight bit extra slot, but you can also run larger and larger gauges in it. 050 gauge is most commonly found on 24 inch or below bars, or sometimes all the way up to 28. 050 is most commonly found on steel saws in my experience, and smaller Husqvarna saws. Once you start getting up into the larger Husqvarna saws, they usually immediately switch over to 063. There's a healthy mix of 050 and 063 from both companies, and what I've found and what I've gotten on a lot of older saws, a lot of the Husqvarnas have 063 more so than the the steels. It's not to say that's a reason to buy one over the other. It's just something I've noticed. Once you get into 32 and up bars, it's pretty much exclusively 063 gauge. If you're talking 4/4 chain, which this is, 4/4 chain is exclusively 063 gauge, which is 63 thousandths of an inch. When you're talking 325 chain, that's pretty much exclusively 050. There are, again, shore saw bars. You can get some smaller ones, but the big names are 050 and 063. Why do I run a lot of 050? I run it because a lot of the shore bars, 24 inches or below, I have quite a few of those, and I can keep sizing chain up. I actually had a few 063 chains for 20-inch bars because I had a Oregon bar that came on this Husky 55, my first ever saw, that it came with, and the bar was so worn out that we started running 063 gauge chains on it to tighten it up, because once you get more slop than that, that starts leading to issues. Those issues are part of the reason why a lot of the long bars automatically come with 063. 063 gauge is tighter from the factory, as I have mentioned, and that leads to being able to clean up cuts, face cuts, and Dutchmen much easier. It's easier because the chain isn't flopping around so much. That leads to you throwing chains less, which is a big deal on these big long bars. And it's also a big deal because your chain, if it's rock solid and not rocking this much, but only rocking this much, it allows your cuts to be more precise and they don't wander as much. It's really important when you got 36 or 42-inch bar buried in a tree and you're trying to get two cuts to line up perfectly. Once your chain starts wandering around like this, your cuts can start to get a little bit of waviness to them. They can start cutting off to one side, cutting off to the other. That's how you know your bar is worn out. So the other thing to keep in mind when checking your chain rails and your gauge is make sure when you check it, it's not going over, say, 30 degrees one side and only 20 degrees on the other. That would mean your sharpening is improper, leading to more wear on one side of the bar rails than the other. That leads to your saw cutting crookedly, always in the same direction and by the same amount. I know that's a lot of info that I just dropped on you about it, on especially such a seemingly simple topic, but all you have to remember, especially if you just got a saw, look at your bar. This bar right here gives you, it's tucked on the inside because I got this flipped upside down, but it gives you all the info you need. 3/8, 050 gauge, 72 drive links. So drive links are these drivers that we've been talking about in the past two videos. And everything you need to know about your saw chain is in that. Unless you start getting up into specialty chains such as skip tooth, or you want to go deeper into semi-chisel versus full chisel, all you need to know on if a chain will fit your saw is all about the drivers. How many drive links, what size they are, and the pitch between them. All that info. I'm using these steel boxes because I got a bunch of them. Just got a bunch of them laying around. So, here, 20-inch bar, 72 drive links. 050 gauge, 3/8 pitch. Then super is the type of color, and right above it, you can see the yellow. All this stuff at the bottom is just info for sharpening. You need a 13/64 file, which I will get into in a while, but I don't always follow that. Then the raker height, that's what's set from the factory, which is 25 thousandths of an inch, and 30 degrees cutter angle. Cutter angle only matters once you start getting into ripping chains. Ripping chains are a topic for a whole nother video, because then you start getting into different tooth shapes, where some of them have what are known as nicker teeth, which don't have the full top plate. Top plate's cut in half. And you get into things such as hyperskip, which is 8 tie straps between teeth. Again, beyond this video, you don't need to know this, especially if you're just starting out. You just need to look at your bar, or just leave in the comments if your bar doesn't give you your info, and I can help you. Or, best advice I can say is take the chain that's on it, that's worn out, bring it to a dealer. They have charts on the table that will show you. They can lay the chain out, it'll tell you how long it is, how many drive links, what size the drive links are. But yeah, everything you can do to get your chainsaw gauge is in these bar rails, there's a gap. Put feeler gauges in between them, which are commonly available, and find a sack that fits in it nice and snug, and then do the math on it. A lot of times it would be like a 20 thousandths one plus a 5 thousandths one. 25 thousandths, that's most likely or 50 and a 3, which is most likely an 050 gauge bar. It just has a little bit of wear in it. But if you guys have any extra questions on chainsaw gauges and on the drive links in general, please leave them in the comments. I'm always happy to help people. But overall, have a great night, and I hope this helps. Thank you.